Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya IAS Academy. In this class, we will be discussing about fundamental duties. So as we have already discussed in the previous class, so four things, they are very important in polity. One is preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties. So more or less, we should memorize these fundamental duties, similar to fundamental rights. So it means whenever we speak about fundamental duties, we should be able to recall all the fundamental duties, because UPSC, the kind of questions which it poses. So in order to tackle them easily, it would be better if we have memorized the fundamental duties along with the understanding. So we know that our constitution, it consists of 22 parts. So part 1 to part 22. There are totally 22 parts and 12 schedules. Schedule 1 to schedule 12. So we have already seen briefly what is part 1, what is part 2, what is part 3, and what is part 4. So where does fundamental duty fall? So fundamental duties, they fall under part 4A of the Constitution. Part 4A. So why do we have here A? Similarly, what are the articles which are present in part 4A? Article 51A is present in part 4A. So why do we have A here? So initially, when we got our Constitution in 1950, when we got our Constitution, there were no fundamental duties. Okay, there were no fundamental duties. So when were fundamental duties added? Fundamental duties were added in 1976. So when we wanted to add fundamental duty, we were looking for an appropriate place. So after part 4, next will come part 5. So in between part 4 and part 5, we wanted to add, but the appropriate place, there are no articles free. So what we did, we added part 4A. Okay, part 4A, and here we added article 51A. That's why we have an extra letter A. So now we got to know that part 4A, that is article number 51A of the Constitution, deals with fundamental duties. Okay, fundamental duties. Next, we also see that these fundamental duties were added through 42nd Amendment. So we have already discussed about what is an amendment. So whenever we bring some kind of changes to the Constitution, we call it as amendment of the Constitution. So there are many amendments, close to 105 amendments are there to our Constitution. So first amendment, second amendment, third amendment, so on. So here it is 42nd Amendment. Okay, 42nd Amendment. Through 42nd Amendment, we have added fundamental duties to our Constitution. Now the next question that arises is, do we need to know about each and every amendment? Whether first amendment is important from exam point of view, whether second amendment is important? No. Not all amendments are important from exam point of view. There are few amendments which are important, which we have to remember, and as and when we encounter those amendments, so I will let you know that whether it is important or not. So here the 42nd Amendment, through which we have added fundamental duties to the Constitution of India, is very important. So the fundamental duties were added to the Constitution of India through 42nd Amendment in the year 1976. Next, another important aspect is based on the recommendation of which committee fundamental duties were added. So whenever we want to bring any kind of changes or modifications, generally we seek suggestions, and for that purpose we commission a committee. So one such kind of committee was Swaran Singh committee. So this committee, it recommended that fundamental duties have to be added to the Constitution of India. So based on the recommendations of Swaran Singh committee, fundamental duties were added in 1976 through 42nd Amendment. Next, very important is, where did this idea of fundamental duty come from? So we have taken the idea of fundamental duty from where? From USSR. Okay, from USSR. but now presently we do not have USSR. USSR got disintegrated in 1990s. So now USSR has split into many small countries. So among them, the largest country is Russia. So for the time being, what we can assume is we have taken the idea of fundamental duties from USSR or Russia. Next, very important is fundamental duties are non-enforceable. Non-enforceable. So this is very important. We need to understand the meaning of this term, not non-enforceable. Now we have seen that preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties. So when it comes to fundamental rights and fundamental duties. So fundamental rights are enforceable, whereas fundamental duties are non-enforceable. So what does it mean? First we need to understand. So we will not go into the discussion of fundamental right. We already have discussed in a separate class wherein we have discussed about fundamental rights. So here let us take one fundamental right. So from article number 12 to article number 35, so they deal with fundamental right. So randomly I will pick one fundamental right. Let us take article number 17. So article number 17 of the Constitution, it speaks about what? Abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability. So this is a fundamental right. One fundamental right. There are many other fundamental rights as well. So article number 17 says that there should be no untouchability. So untouchability means what previously few sections of the society were called as untouchables. So people, they were called as untouchables, and the other section would never mingle with them. Okay, would never mingle with them, and they were discriminated. So that system is called as untouchability. Okay, untouchability. So people of what lower caste, they were not allowed, they were not supposed to mingle with the people of what higher class. So that system existed. So our Constitution says that there should be no such kind of system. There should be no discrimination. There should be no untouchability. But if supposedly someone practices untouchability, okay, let us assume person A belongs to one caste and person B belongs to another caste. Person A belongs to one caste, person B belongs to other caste. So person A will say that I will not touch you. I will not touch person B. Okay, I will not touch person B because you belong to a particular caste. Now, person B will be offended because person A is practicing untouchability. But what does the Constitution says? The Constitution says that there should be no untouchability. So now what person B can do? Person B can file a case in court. Person B can file a case in court saying that person A is practicing untouchability, which is prohibited in the Constitution. So when person B files a case in the court, so action can be taken against person A. Okay, action can be taken against person A. So this is at the superficial level. It is not exactly how I am discussing now. There are some procedures involved and all, but we will be discussing about those procedures in detail later on. But for a time being, we got to know that if person B's rights have been violated, okay, now person B's rights have been violated because he is being considered as untouchable. Okay, untouchable. So when someone's rights get violated, then that person can file a case in the court. Okay, case in the court in case of violation of fundamental rights. Now when it comes to fundamental duties, we will be discussing in detail later on, but one fundamental duty is respecting our national anthem. One fundamental duty is respecting national anthem. Okay, anthem. Now again, let us consider a scenario where there are two people, person A and person B. So generally, when national anthem is being played, so we pay respect. How? By standing up. Okay, by standing up. Person A stands up and pays respect, but person B, when the national anthem is being played, he will not stand and he will not pay respect. In such a scenario, can we file a case against person B saying that he has not respected our national flag? No, we cannot file a case. Okay. Again, there are some procedures involved wherein a case can also be filed, but we cannot file a case against B saying that he has violated the constitution, or he has violated the fundamental duties, or he has not followed the fundamental duties. So we cannot punish person B for violating the fundamental duties, but we can punish person B here for violating person A here for violating the fundamental rights. It means what we understood at the superficial level, the difference between enforceable and non-enforceable. Whenever we say enforceable, then for the violation of it, we can file a case in the court. And in case of fundamental duty, if somebody does not follow the fundamental duty, in that case, we cannot file a case in the court. So this understanding let us have at the superficial level. Later on, again, in detail, we will be discussing later on. Okay. Next. So next, we'll start with the actual fundamental duties. Okay. So all these duties from exam point of view, we are supposed to memorize. Okay. Means we should be able to recall these fundamental duties. Then itself, some difficult questions related to fundamental duties, we can tackle it very comfortably, easily in the examination. Okay. So, and also understanding is required. Understanding and also memorization. You should be able to recall. Okay. Why recall? Because when it comes to mains, mains examination, when we are writing the answers, in between, wherever necessary, if we quote the fundamental duties, then definitely it will add weightage to our answers. So even this practice will help us in mains as well. So the approach with which we learn these fundamental duties will be beneficial from both prelims as well as mains point of view. So first we shall start with the first fundamental duty, to abide by the constitution. What does it say? To abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and national anthem. Okay. So see here, what are the keywords here? Constitution is the first keyword, ideal second keyword, institutions third keyword, national flag 4, next national anthem 5. So what is the first one? To abide by the constitution. Means whatever the constitution says, I should obey all the rules, whatever have been mentioned in the constitution. So that is meant by abide by the constitution. So I should follow the rules which have been mentioned in the constitution. First one. And respect its ideals. So our constitution consists of many ideals. Okay, many ideals. An example of an ideal, I will write. One example of ideal will be secularism. One more idealism will be socialism. So in this fashion, we have many ideals. Okay, we have many ideals. So what does, we'll take just one example of secularism. So what does secularism say? So we should have equal respect towards all the religion. Okay, towards all the religion. So this is one ideal which is present in the constitution. So what does the fundamental duty say? The fundamental duty says that we should abide by the constitution and respect the ideals. It means we should respect what is present in the constitution. We should respect secularism. Okay, we should respect secularism means we should treat all the religions equally. Okay, equally. So there should be no discrimination. So this should be the one of the fundamental duty. Respect its ideals and respect its institutions. So what do we understand by institutions? So in our constitution, as per the constitution, there are many institutions. Just few examples I will take. I will take Supreme Court. So whether Supreme Court is an institution? Yes, Supreme Court is an institution. Next, I will take High Court. Whether High Court is an institution? Yes, it is an institution. Next, we will see Election Commission of India. Whether Election Commission of India is an institution? Yes, it is an institution. Whether Prime Minister's office is an institution? Yes, it is an institution. So there are many such institutions. So we have to respect the institutions. As a citizen of this country, we should respect these institutions. So what does it imply? For example, Supreme Court gives a decision on a particular matter. Okay. So you should respect that decision. As a citizen of this country, you should respect that decision. Okay. So some constructive criticism is okay, but you cannot go overboard. Okay. So here we should respect the institutions, means whatever the work those institutions are carrying out, we should respect that work. We should respect that work. So I just took Supreme Court as an example. Similarly, respect the national flag. We should respect our national flag. So the detailed what things about how to give respect to national flag and all, we have in a separate code. We'll not be discussing about that, but we have to respect our national flag. Similarly, we should respect our national anthem. Okay, national anthem. So commonly, whenever national anthem is being played, we pay respect by standing up. Okay, by standing up. So this is the first fundamental duty. Next, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. So noble ideals to cherish and follow. So if we look at our national struggle, okay, we got independence in 1947, but how did we get independence? Before independence, a lot of struggles have taken place. Okay, a lot of struggles. So let us assume first we started with 1857, first war of Indian independence. Okay, then we in 1905, close to 1905, we had Swadeshi movement. Next, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, quit India movement, and finally we got freedom in 1947. So during each of these national struggles, whether it is non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, there were certain ideals. Okay, there were certain ideals which our freedom fighters had in their mind. So what is that ideal? So the ideal is like this. So we need to have a country where we enjoy sovereignty. So this was the ideal which they kept while going for this struggle. Sovereignty means we need to have a system wherein the Indians itself will rule themselves. Okay, so we should not be ruled by the outsiders. So during our Britishers used to rule before independence, so that should not be there. So Indians should be ruled by themselves. So with such kind of ideals, they went for the national struggle. So as a common citizen, we should follow these noble ideals and we should also cherish them. Okay, we should also love these ideals. Okay, love these ideals. I just took one example. Similarly, other noble ideals can be, now Gandhiji followed a noble ideal of what? Non-violence. Okay, non-violence. So similarly, as a citizen of this country, we should what? Respect this non-violence kind of thing. We should follow the non-violence kind of thing which inspired our national struggle. Okay, which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Next, to protect and to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Okay. So first we need to understand what is sovereignty, unity and integrity. So again, there are different meanings. In detail, we will be discussing later on. But at the superficial level, sovereignty means self-rule. We should be ruled by ourselves. We should not be ruled by foreigners. So we should uphold and protect. So whatever the sovereignty is there, that we have to uphold, and we should also try to protect it. Okay, we should also try to protect. We should protect it. So what are the things that can act as harmful to sovereignty? Things which can act as harm to sovereignty. Now, for example, I am serving in army. So I have access to many secret information. Okay, I have access to many secret information. If that secret information is leaked to an enemy nation, okay, an enemy nation, then what happens? That enemy nation that can take this secret information and attack on us. And when they attack on us, then probably they can start controlling us. So our sovereignty will be lost. So now whatever the activity that I have done, that sharing of that secret information with my enemy, so that is considered as what? Against the sovereignty. Means I am acting against the sovereignty. So we should not involve in such kind of what? Anti-national activities. So we should always strive to uphold and protect the sovereignty of the country. And next, unity and integrity of the nation. So again, it has a what? Deeper connotation, deeper meaning at the superficial level. So what are the various threats to unity and integrity of India? So now generally when we fight based on caste, based on religion, or based on language, then what happens? The unity will be disrupted. Similarly, now so few of them, they make a demand that they want to form a separate nation. So all such kind of thoughts, what they will do? They'll become a threat to integrity of India. So we should never promote such kind of thoughts. We should never promote such kind of ideas. So always we should uphold and protect the ideas which uphold sovereignty, and which protects the unity of India, and which protects the integrity of India. Okay, integrity of India. Next, to defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. Okay, so whenever there is a requirement, we should be ready to defend our country. Okay, to defend our country. So again, there are different meanings that we can give here, but just one, with the help of one meaning, we shall try to understand. So whenever we are called, we should be ready to what? Fight with our enemies at the border. With this example, we'll be able to what? Remember it very easily. To defend the country. Next, render national services when called upon to do so. So here we can take some other example. So what is national service? So there are many examples of national service, but here I will stick to one example. So let us assume somewhere there has been a earthquake. So whenever an earthquake has taken place, we require a lot of operations like rescue operation and all. So our military personnel service and sometimes NDRF service will not be sufficient. So some extra people might be required. So we have seen examples wherein the civil society organizations will go forward and they'll help in the rescue operation and all. So when they are involved in this exercise, what kind of service they are rendering? They are rendering national service. They are rendering national service. Similarly, at the time of COVID, we have seen many people from rural areas and all, when they got admitted into the hospital, they did not have access to food and all. At that time, many NGOs, they came forward and they extended the helping hand by providing food and all. So now, what kind of service they were providing? They are providing national service. So what does this is a fundamental duty say? To defend the country and render national services when called upon to do so. Okay, this is another fundamental duty. Next, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. So, okay. So to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood. So what is the harmony? So we should always live in peace. Okay, we should not fight with one another. Okay, and we should maintain a spirit of common brotherhood. What is spirit of common brotherhood? We should all live like brothers and sisters. But certain threats are there. Okay, which prevent us from maintaining the harmony, which prevent us from becoming or remaining like brothers and sisters. So what are those threats? The threats are in the form of religion, language, okay, region. Now, generally, these religious differences. So if we start considering our differences, that I am a Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, if such kind of differences, if we allow them to prevail, then what happens? Sometimes they go beyond the control and they will spoil the harmony. Okay, they'll spoil the harmony, and that spirit of common brotherhood will be lost. That's why we should never promote an idea which tries to divide the society based on religion. Okay, religion. Similarly, many times our language acts as a threat to the harmony. Okay, so I am a Kannadiga, you are a Tamilian, you are a Malayali speaking person. So if such kind of discrimination if we do, then what happens? The unity of the nation will be lost. The peace will be lost. So we should never promote any ideas which becomes threat to the integrity of India. Okay, so we should never try to bring differences because of the language. Okay? Because of the language. Similarly, regional. So I am a person from South India, you are a person from North India, you are from Northeast. If such kind of discrimination if we start making, then a sense of common brotherhood, it cannot be established. Okay, common brotherhood cannot be established. So that's why we should not try to promote any ideas which promotes regionalism. Okay, regionalism. Similarly, sectional diversities. Okay, sectional diversities. Again, in the forthcoming classes, we will be discussing in detail about how the constitution provides a sense of common brotherhood. I'll just give you one example. Okay, in India, when it comes to citizenship, we have single citizenship. Okay, means a person will be having one single citizenship, Indian citizenship. He will not be having a citizenship like Karnataka citizenship, Maharashtra citizenship, Punjab citizenship. No. But in case of USA and all, we have two citizenships, citizenship of a state and citizenship of a nation. But here in India, we have one citizenship. Even this one citizenship, it promotes what? Common brotherhood. So here I just gave you an example that in the forthcoming classes, we will be learning about many more things which helps to overcome the difficulties of religion, language and regional diversities. Okay, so we will be discussing about them all in the future classes. Next, to renounce practices derogatory to dignity of women. Okay, dignity of women. So what are the practices derogatory to dignity of women? So there used to be many practices which were considered derogatory to dignity of women. So one example could be sati system. So we know, so sati system prevailed in India. So during sati system, whenever husband died, then wife had to jump into that fire. Okay. So but now that system, what we have prohibited, we have completely removed it. So we should not have such kind of practices. Okay, we should not have such kind of practices. Similarly, the practice of taking dowry. Okay, so practice of taking dowry. So what happens? So all these practices, these are derogatory to the dignity of women. So we should prohibit such kind of practices. Okay, we should renounce, we should stop such kind of practices. So again, it is one of the fundamental duty. Next, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. So see here, our culture is a composite culture. So when we say composite culture, in India, we have what? Culture related to different faiths. It may be related to Hinduism, okay, Buddhism, Jainism, next Islam. So as we have a composite culture, so we should value every culture. We should preserve the rich heritage which we have derived from all these different religions or different cultures. Okay, so we should preserve them and we should respect them. We should respect them. An example would be, for example, an example of a culture is, let us assume, a dance form. Okay, let us take Bharatanatyam as an example. Okay, Bharatanatyam as an example. So what we should do as an example, we should value Bharatanatyam and we should preserve Bharatanatyam. Suppose if we do not practice Bharatanatyam, then probably in a decade or two, so Bharatanatyam will be completely we will lose Bharatanatyam. So then we have to just tell the stories that previously there existed a dance called as Bharatanatyam. So that should not happen. So in order to preserve it, what we have to do, we have to respect it and we have to practice it. Okay, so why? To maintain that composite culture. So just I gave you an example. Next, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. So what should be our duty? Our duty should be to protect and improve the natural environment. Okay. So how will we protect our natural environment? So an example of forest. So generally we should not cut the trees of the forest. Only when there is an absolute need, then itself we should cut the trees. And next, when it comes to lakes and rivers, many times what happens when we go for a tour and all, so whatever the garbage we have, it may be plastic bottles or anything else, we'll just discard it in the rivers, we'll just discard it in the lakes. So as a responsible citizen of this country, our fundamental duty is to ensure that the natural environment, okay, it is preserved, it is conserved, it is protected. Okay, so we should not involve ourselves in such kind of activities. Similarly, we should ensure that we do not cause any kind of harm to wildlife. Okay, when we say wildlife, it may be both plant or animals. So we should not cause any kind of harm to our wild animals. For example, you should not hunt wild animals like tiger and all. Okay, so again, it is our fundamental duty. And to have compassion for all living creatures, not only human beings, but for all living creatures, we should have that compassion. Okay, we should care for all the living creatures. Next, to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. So what does this say? Scientific temper. So whenever you have been presented with some kind of information, rather than just blindly accepting it, you should question it, why it is working in this fashion. So that is called a scientific temper. Whenever you question something, in the process of finding the answer, you will gain a knowledge and your personality and your knowledge base will evolve. So that is very important for evolution of any kind of society, or as well as for the reform of an individual. Okay, reform of an individual. Now an example we can take. Suppose okay. Now previously we took the example of sati system. Now somebody questioned, what is the scientific basis for performing the sati system? Okay, so somebody questioned, started with that scientific temper, and because of that we were able to bring reforms. That sati system was completely banned. So how did it start with? It started with a scientific temper, that why we are practicing it. okay, whether it is required, whether it is necessary. Okay, so for every aspect we need to have that scientific temper, then we can bring reform in ourselves as well as in the whole society. So again, this should be one of our fundamental duty. Next, to safeguard public property and abjure violence. So when we say public property, the property which belongs to all of us. Now the roads, so they are public property. The trains in which we travel, it is public property. The buses in which we travel, again they are public property. So we should safeguard public property. We should not do any kind of harm to the public property because it belongs to us. Okay, and to abjure violence. So we should never involve in violent activities. We should never involve in violent activities and the activities which cause harm to the public property. So many times we have seen that during strikes and all, people involved in violent activities wherein they will burn the buses and all. But when all these activities are happening, whose asset is being lost? Our property, our asset is being lost. So that's why we should never involve in activities which goes against the safeguarding of public property. Okay. Next, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievements. Okay, achievements. Now, for a nation to make progress, contribution of both an individual and a team is required equally. Now let us assume a single individual, he performs excellent. Okay, he will work excellently, but that single performance will not lead to the upliftment of the nation. Okay, you should also learn to work in a team. Okay, work in a team. When individual works in an excellent manner, and similarly when a team works in an excellent manner, then the nation can be taken to greater heights. Then itself nation can be taken to greater heights. So an example could be our ISRO. So our ISRO has launched many satellites. Okay, many satellites. So whether all these satellites were launched by one single person, or only one single person was responsible for building all these satellites? No. Okay, so there were many geniuses who sat together and who contributed significantly. Because of that, today whatever the different satellites that we are witnessing, and because of that we are able to communicate and all, so it has happened because of the individual effort as well as the collective effort of the team. So always we should strive to towards excellence, in which individual development takes place and also at the same time collective development takes place, so that as a result of this, nation rises and it reaches greater heights. Okay, greater heights, and we should always strive towards it. Okay, again this is one of the last fundamental duty. So in this class we discussed about the fundamental duty. Similarly, in the upcoming classes we will be discussing about the other important topics related to polity. Thank you.